through. Mainly clear, a bit breezy tonight with a low temperature of 71 degrees, and tomorrow it's going to be partly sunny, breezy, and quite pleasant with a high temperature getting up to 82 degrees. And your extended weather forecast, beautiful weather right through Friday. As we said on Saturday, could get 1 or 2 sprinkles as that frontal system pushes through. Not much change, as we told you already. Those temperatures will drop into the upper 60s during the early part of next week. LaDawn.
Thanks a lot, Basil. And just before we go, we're happy to report that we have found our very own Trevor Kimbo Francis.
Kimbo, me Kimbo! I'm ready for you.
Not the video camera.
Kimbo, me Kimbo. This your Pampers. That's what I promised you. You know, I was worried about you. I really was. You know, we put out a wanted poster for you, $10,000.
I heard.
You know, but you turned yourself in.
Yeah,
This is a used pack.
For you?
It is used. But something is better than nothing.
Thank you.
You okay?
Be grateful, eh?
Okay, be grateful. In all things, be grateful. Okay, Kimbo?
Thanks.
You know, I'm glad to have you back.
Thanks.
Okay?
Thanks. I don't know how long I can be able to think about it, but I can eat them.
Pull through.
Thank you.
We need you to pull through.
Thank you. Don't be safe.
Well, that does it for the Bahamas tonight, but we encourage you to stay tuned for live coverage of the opening ceremony at the 44th regular meeting of CARICOM heads of government. We now head on over to the Atlantis Paradise Island Resort with hosts Julian Reed and Makush Lapinder.
Good evening. I'm Julian Reed, and welcome to our live broadcast from the Grand Ballroom of the Atlantis Resort. We're here covering the official opening ceremony of the 44th regular meeting of the heads of government of CARICOM. Now, over the next few days, national security, migration, especially migration concerning the situation in Haiti, and climate change will be some of the areas that regional leaders will focus on. Now, we are going to start the actual live ceremony at 6:30, but joining me, Makush Lapinder.
Well, thanks, Julian. Now, tackling those very many issues that you just mentioned are 15 CARICOM members, 5 associated members who, for many decades, have shared history, but in all honesty, share deep-seated challenges. And as you mentioned, a key one of those challenges is the deepening crisis in Haiti.
Absolutely. And just to remind people, I know that the Bahamas, of course, we are feeling the brunt of it probably more than any other country, but there are several other countries in the region that are feeling it too. Just recently, Grenada had to, well, I won't say deport, but send back 15 people to Trinidad and Tobago, 15 Haitian nationals. They denied them entry. So it's a concern that everyone has, and everyone has to look seriously at to find a resolution. And
I know here at home, Julian, speaking of the Haitian migration problem, or the illegal Haitian migration problem, you know, officials have indicated that so far this year, and we're only in the second month of the year, more than $500,000 have been spent sending immigrants back home. And while all of them haven't been Haitian nationals, quite a large number of them have been. And this is due in part to, you know, early in the year, we had hundreds of Haitians coming here. It's an issue that has also sparked a lot of intense moments here at home with people taking to the streets. One body in particular led by social activist Lincoln Bain. You know, a protest was held several weeks ago, just outside Parliament. He was decrying the illegal migration problem.
Well, there was also a protest today. But the regional leaders are here, and they are in the ballroom, and we are going to send you to Altavis Munnings, who is inside.
Julian and Makushla, I can tell you that there is a buzz of excitement inside the Grand Ballroom of the Atlantis Paradise Island Resort. This room is about to get filled in several seconds. Not only are members of the cabinet here, there are members of the judiciary, members of the legal sector, the diplomatic corps, the banking sector, the technology sector. There are so many representatives here attending tonight's opening ceremony of the 44th annual CARICOM Heads of Government meeting. They're right now being serenaded by the Royal Bahamas Defense Force Band, and they're awaiting the regional leaders' arrival, which will signal the start of this dynamic ceremony. And I know viewers and listeners will see all things Bahamian. We'll send it right back to you, Makushla and Julian.
Thank you, Alto. Now, we will give you a sort of rundown of what's expected tonight in a bit. But before that, would like to give you a little bit of information about the history of CARICOM, why it was founded, and when the Bahamas got involved. CARICOM, like the Bahamas, is celebrating 50 years this year. It came into effect on July 4th, 1973, with the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas by Prime Ministers Errol Barrow for Barbados, Forbes Burnham for Guyana, Michael Manley for Jamaica, and Eric Williams for Trinidad and Tobago. Now, the Bahamas did not join until 1983, and we became the 13th member state of the community on that date. But of course, as you know, the Bahamas is not a member of the common market.
Well, Julian, you speak of the Bahamas not joining until many years later, or several years later. Just to note that this is not the first time the Bahamas has hosted CARICOM. On one occasion, it was back in 1984. The chair at the time was the former Prime Minister, Sir Lyndon Pinling. In his address during that CARICOM meeting, the Prime Minister emphasized the conviction that the fullness of mutual understanding was the bedrock on which CARICOM has its genesis. Now, no doubt the issues back in 1984 were a bit different than what we're faced with today, but there are going to be some intense meetings during the next 2 days at Bahamas.
They're more complex, but CARICOM has four main pillars: economic integration, foreign policy coordination, human and social development, and security. And of course, when we are in international fora like the UN, we see CARICOM coming together to have a common position. It's a stronger position when it's common, and we usually go with the CARICOM position unless there's something that affects us directly, and then we will take a bilateral move on that.
Now, Alto, she mentioned that there are several, the room is filled with a lot of dignitaries, but that also includes our former prime ministers, that in the likeness of the most honorable Perry Christie, you have the Right Honorable Perry Christie, the Right Honorable Hubert Ingram. You also have the Most Honorable Hubert Minnis here as well. Outside of the Bahamas, outside of the region, you have our special guest in the likeness of the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. You also have a high-level U.S. delegation that is safe to presume is being led by the U.S. Special Envoy to Climate, John Kerry, and that's a big issue on the agenda for the next 2 days as well.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned the former prime ministers who were here, and I remember very well the former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram, who had a very close relationship with the late Owen Arthur, the former Prime Minister of Barbados, and they would have they had a friendly relationship, but they would actually sort of egg each other on every once in a while. And similarly with Prime Minister Christie, former Prime Minister Christie, he and Prime Minister, who is still the Prime Minister for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonzalez, and he is here tonight. They had a similar kind of relationship.
Well, we can see a pretty impressive gathering there in the room. It's filled to capacity, it seems. We also can tell you that joining among those attending, we see on the screen there the U.S. Chargé d'Affaires, Yusha Pitts. We can also tell you that earlier we spotted Dame Boswick. She's there, and she will be presenting a special award tonight. We also can tell you on the screen there's former Cabinet Minister Shane Gibson. There are a lot of PSs there, parliamentary sects. And so this is a big moment for the Bahamas. As Julian noted earlier, not only is CARICOM celebrating its 50th year, but that 50th year actually coincides with the Bahamas celebrating 50 years as an independent nation. So what better place to host the 44th regular meeting of CARICOM?
As it is about to start, and I believe we are seeing right behind us now, there is the Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, along with the Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley. And we expect a lot of their contributions to really be significant over the next 2 days. perhaps it's a good time now for us to go through the program and let our viewers know what's going to happen. Of course, we're going to have a lot of Bahamian music as part of this, and local artists, of course. The national anthem will be sung by Ali Akoli, the CARICOM song by Wendy Knight-Lewis, or Lewis Knight, excuse me, who goes just by Wendy now. The prayer will be by the Most Reverend Patrick Pinder of the Catholic Church. Remarks by Dr. Carla Barnett, who is the Secretary General, fairly recently elected. You'll also hear from the National Children's Choir, see the National Dance Company, remarks by the Honorable Terence Drew, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and a lot of other dignitaries and heads of government as expected.
I think what's important here, Julian, is the fact that this opening ceremony is heavily concentrated on showcasing the best of the Bahamas, and that's what organizes. That's what Her Excellency to CARICOM, Leslie Miller-Bryce, she stressed ahead of CARICOM that we want to showcase the best of what the Bahamas has to offer. So this is a spectacular moment for us to do this. No better moment.
You know, even though this marks the official opening of this three-day meeting, there have been meetings that led up to this official ceremony, an official CARICOM heads of government meeting. And a lot of it has been focused on, as you said, climate change and those matters that we mentioned before. And if you're looking at your cameras, you can probably see the former prime ministers, Ingram, Christie, and Minnis behind us. But
you also have members of the religious community. There you have Bishop Neil Ellis as well. And of course, you have members of the U.S. delegation that we spoke of. Now, apart from Haiti, like Julian noted earlier, you have things like climate change, you have things like food security, you have things like crime, you have things like energy. All of those will be the topics to be covered during those 2 days of meetings. And
as you said, you know, because of those issues, members from the largest organizations that represent those issues, for example, the Food and Agriculture, Andrew Holness just walking in, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Food and Agriculture Organization head will be here to help in the discussions leading towards food security. So this is a very important meeting, and we hope that, and we believe, that some significant strides forward will be made as a result of what they do between now and Friday.
And just to piggyback off what you said on food security, it's particularly important for the region in light of the inflation that we've been battling for, I think it has been more than a year, rising inflation, and that's not just the Bahamas, that's really not just the region. We have been stuck with a $1 billion import bill for many years, and so something has to give.
It's critical. We've been talking about food security since the 1970s. I'm not sure we've made the kind of strides that we could have made, but it has always been on the actual agenda. I believe it is being heightened now, and we'll see more. It has to be. I don't know if you remember very well after 9/11, when ports were closed for concern, they were concerned that food wouldn't get out. Mm-hmm. So we have to find a way to ensure that we grow as much of our own food as possible.
I think the Prime Minister just recently noted that, you know, not many Bahamians are interested in agriculture, and he's trying to change things around. He's trying to actually to get things going, launch an even egg program. So we're doing what we can on a local scene to get this food security under control here. I mean, just go in the food stores and you're sticker shock practically every week. But then there's also the issue of crime, which not only the Bahamas has to tackle on a daily basis. A report recently came out. I think we're 8th on the list with crime. It's a long-standing
regional problem.
It's a long-standing problem.
And as bad as it seems for us, I think even per capita, it's not as high as some of the others. When you look at a small territory like Turks and Caicos Islands, and you're seeing increased crime. Of course, we have been supporting the government of Turks and Caicos Islands in that effort as we struggle with our own.
That's correct. We recently sent or preparing to send another set of police officers over to TCI to help with that problem over there. Oh, recently, just a few minutes ago, we saw the former Deputy Prime Minister, Cynthia Pratt. She's also here at the CARICOM meeting. We can also tell you, we can sneak a peek. I think that maybe, well, right now on our screen is the wife of the Prime Minister. We also have the Chief Justice, the Deputy Prime Minister, Chester Cooper, and his wife as well. So a lot of big wigs are in one place to get things going over the next 2 days in hopes of making some progress, making some inroads in what we have to tackle.
Now, I can tell you, just so you get a little understanding about how intense negotiations can be, I'm not sure that they're going to be as extreme as some of the United Nations sessions I've been in. But, you know, you can actually, 2 o'clock in the morning, still trying to come to a resolution. I'm sure they don't want that to happen. I'm sure they like to meet resolution on these matters way before that. If you're looking on your screen now, you can see John Kerry, the U.S. President's special envoy, and he is focusing on climate change matters. And has, you know, taken a global stance on that, of course, for the United States.
I'm going to piggyback on what you said about how intense these meetings could be. You know, Fred Mitchell shared with us that the foreign ministers meeting, 6 hours.
COFCOR. And that's
6 hours.
That's actually not that bad. 6 hours is not bad. COFCOR is a very important grouping that you have in international organizations, and it focuses specifically on foreign affairs ministers and foreign affairs matters.
So these are the kinds of things that we are working with over the next 2 days. It's going to be a lot of intense moments, and we're hoping to get the best of it.
Now, the CSME is a sort of acronym that people, it's not really an acronym, but there's some letters that Bahamians don't usually like to hear. And I don't think that we're going to have any concern about joining the CSME, but there is concern about the future of the CSME, and that is going to be on the agenda as well. But CSME, what the benefits were, the CSME seeks to implement provisions for the removal of trade and professional restrictions, and these provisions, facilitate the right to establishment businesses to provide regional services, the free movement of capital, and the coordination of economic policies. But then again, I repeat, I don't think that is something that Bahamians will have to worry about.
Well, now on climate change, getting back to climate change in terms of climate finance, and climate change has really been, the Prime Minister has positioned himself as, so to speak, the local poster boy for climate change. He's made a lot of pitches on the international stages for climate change, for more to be done for small island developing states like the Bahamas. We're not to blame, but we're bearing the brunt of what's happening in the climate. So climate change and climate financing is a key topic, but that, of course, that's coming at the end of these closed sessions, and all the sessions are closed.
Now, you know, it's very interesting to see. We saw the Barbadian Prime Minister coming in with the Canadian Prime Minister, and that's very interesting because most of the banks in the region are from where? Canada, right? And if you are aware, Mia Motley actually came up with the Bridgetown Initiative, and I'll let you know what that is. The Bridgetown Initiative is a proposal to reform the world of development finance. Now, Barbados, particularly how countries can help poor countries cope and adapt to climate change, so it all works together. Now, Barbados set out 3 steps in the initiative. The first involves changing some of the terms around how funding is loaned and repaid. The aim is to stop developing nations spiraling into debt crisis when their borrowing is forced by successive disasters like floods, droughts, and storms. And we know, we've seen it. We've seen what Hurricane Dorian has done to us. Of course, we're seeing it all around the world, too. You look at Pakistan, you look at South Africa. And sadly, when it comes to earthquakes, we see what's happening in Turkey and Syria right now with the severe numbers of casualties in that.
Now, Julian, there are going to be some light moments over the next 2 days as well. It's just not all business. There's a state reception that's planned at Government House, Mount Fitzwilliam. There is also a dinner for heads of government, but of course, none of that is on tonight's agenda. Tonight, it's all about the opening ceremony. And of course, the Prime Minister, the chair of the 44th CARICOM regular meeting, will make an address, among others.
That's right. Now, is this your first time covering CARICOM, or have you...
First time covering CARICOM live.
Okay, great.
So it's different from working in the newsroom or watching via Zoom, which has been the case for 2-3 years. It's a totally different experience. But I'd like our viewers know that you've spent some time in Haiti, so you know what the situation is, even though it may not have been as bad then as it.
Well, actually,
you know,
Haiti is ups and downs, ups and downs. I was fortunate that when I was posted there as a diplomat, it was one of the good times and really one of the more hopeful times because we thought that, well, there were a lot of people coming from the diaspora, from Canada, from America, from France, who were very serious about trying to rebuild Haiti. And it seemed like it was heading in the right direction, and then all of a sudden it reverted to the past. It's a very sad situation, but it's a very serious one. And leaders here want to make a difference there, but the concern is that Haiti, the Haitian people, have to take the lead in it. We have to support them, but they need to take the lead.
Well, right now we'll take a break. Once again, you're watching live coverage of the 44th regular meeting of CARICOM. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our live coverage of the official opening ceremony of the 44th regular meeting of the heads of government of CARICOM. And as you can see on your monitor right now, there is the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. International organization representatives are here too. I just saw the head of the Organization for American States, Luis Almagro. So obviously there would be UN representatives here. The head of the Food Agriculture Organization is here. representative from that country, as I said before. But I'm sure all of the key UN agencies and regional agencies have representatives here at this very important meeting.
Yes, Julian. Also outside CARICOM, you have in attendance the president of the Afri-Exim Bank, the executive president of CAF. You also have the director general of the WTO. We can also tell you that during these talks, there's expected to be a video from the Russian president
Ukrainian president.
Ukrainian president, I stand to be corrected, and thank you so much. Ukrainian president who's really trying to drum up support in his continued fight against Russia.
There you go. Yes, Zelensky is quite a character, an amazing man, an actor, but a very fierce fighter in many ways, not just on the political field, but actually on the battlefield as well. And, of course, we do think of the situation there, and we hope that it's resolved soon.
It goes to show how much faith he has in the Caribbean, knowing that it's a body of many countries coming together who may make some movement in what's been happening there for more than a year now.
Well, very recently, I had the opportunity of interviewing the I think we're going to go to the actual opening right now, and the moderator for this is Mr. Charles Seeley.
Of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the 50th anniversary of CARICOM. We invite you to stand as we welcome all heads of state, accompanied by student leaders of our government primary schools. The Secretary General for the Caribbean Community, Her Excellency Dr. Carla Barnett. Antigua and Barbuda, the Honorable Gaston Brown, Prime Minister. Barbados, the Honorable Mia Amor Motley, Prime Minister. Belize, the Honorable John Persino, Prime Minister. Dominica, the Honorable Roosevelt Scarrett, Prime Minister. Grenada, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, Prime Minister. Guyana, His Excellency Mohammed Ifan Ali, President. Haiti, His Excellency Dr. Ariel Henry, Prime Minister. Jamaica, the Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister. Montserrat, the Honorable Joseph Farrell, Premier. St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honorable Terence Drew, Prime Minister. St. Lucia, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, Prime Minister. Suriname, His Excellency Albert R. Ramdin, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Business, and International Cooperation, representing the President of Suriname, His Excellency Chandrika Prasad Santokhi. Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, Prime Minister. Bermuda, the Honorable Walter Roban, Deputy Premier and Minister of Home Affairs, representing the Premier of Bermuda, the Honorable E. David Burt. British Virgin Islands, the Honorable Dr. Natalio D. Wheatley, Premier. Turks and Caicos Islands, the Honorable Charles Washington Missick, Premier. And Chairman of the Conference, from the Bahamas, the Honorable Philip Edward Davis, Prime Minister. One more time, let's give a warm round of applause for all our heads of state. Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, performed by renowned Bahamian female vocalist, Miss Aaliyah Coley, and the singing of the CARICOM song by Bahamian singing sensation, Wendy.
Though the weather, I know our forefathers came, some seeking adventure, some bound in chains. Through battles waged and fought, through victory and pain, by test of their courage, our freedom was gained. In homage to those gone before us, the heroes of lands in the sun, we vow to join hands and to focus on building one Caribbean. Raise your voices high and sing with your courage, your pride. Sing it loud and strong as our hearts beat as one. Celebrate in song as we rise to heights where we belong. Sound the victory drum for CARICOM. Though great and diverse be our ethnicities, the bonds that unite us are stronger than these. We dine, we pray, we love, we dance and we play, we relate to each other the West Indian way. Today as a people united to the brand new one, we look to a brand new horizon. We CARICOM, raise your voices high and sing with your courage, your pride. Sing it loud and strong as our hearts beat as one. Celebrate in song as we rise to heights where we belong. Sound the victory drum for CARICOM. Woo! Hey, up your stem CARICOM. Knock your drum CARICOM. CARICOM. Raise your voices high and sing with your career. Yes, sing it loud and strong as our hearts beat as one. Hey. Celebrate in song as we rise to heights where we belong. Sound the victory drum for CARICOM. Knock your drum, CARICOM. Knock your drum, CARICOM. Oh.
Remain standing for the prayer by the Most Reverend Patrick Pender, Catholic Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Nassau.
We pray in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. O God of the nations, we place before you the proceedings of this 44th regular meeting of the heads of government of CARICOM. Grace their discussions with an abundance of wisdom, courage, compassion, and discernment in dealing with the challenges of our region. Grant the delegates and participants wisdom to grasp the complexity of the issues facing our nations, from poverty to irregular migration, from climate change to food security, from public health to unemployment. Grant those gathered for these talks the courage to face the challenges of our region with honesty, impartiality, and in the best interest of all. May the discussions be graced with compassion so as never to lose sight of the most vulnerable, the most at risk, the most disadvantaged persons among us. Let them be guided by the words of the prophet Isaiah, "A bruised reed he shall not break, and a smoldering wick he shall not quench, until he establishes justice on the earth." Lord, grant each participant the power of discernment to distinguish rightly what is the genuine common good. Let the light of your divine wisdom direct this meeting and shine forth in all its proceedings. Where there is common agreement and understanding, let there be gratitude. Where there is difference and disagreement, let charity and decency prevail. Breathe your own spirit into these discussions, Lord, a spirit of discipline, order, justice, truth, and gentleness. Even in moments of difficulty and doubt, keep the flame of hope ever burning in the hearts of all the delegates. By your grace, Lord, may this gathering here in Nassau be a benefit to all in our region and beyond, and thus give glory to your name, through Christ our Lord. Amen.
You may be seated. Under the direction of Mr. Ashley Knowles, welcome the Bahamas National Children's Choir performing a medley of Bahamian cultural songs.
Happy wedding, our prizes, everyone.
One more time for the Bahamas National Children's Choir. Welcome the Secretary General of CARICOM, Dr. Carla Barnett.
The Right Honorable Philip Davis, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and Chairman of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, Your Excellency Chandrika Persad Santokhi, President of the Republic of Suriname and outgoing Chairman of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, who isn't with us tonight, but we will hear his message later on. Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government of the Caribbean Community, Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, PC MP, Prime Minister of Canada, Honorable Mr. Justice Ian R. Winder, Chief Justice of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Honorable Patricia DeVoe, MP, Speaker of the House of the Assembly of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Senator Honorable Lashal Adderley, President of the Senate of the Parliament of the Bahamas, other heads of delegation, heads of regional and international institutions, members of the diplomatic corps, delegates, people of the Caribbean community. As I welcome all of you to the 44th meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government, I do so with the thought in mind as our Caribbean community approaches its 50th anniversary, that milestones generally mark achievements, not merely the passage of time. There will be time in the coming months to assess our achievements and justifiably celebrate the landmark anniversary. But for this evening and over the next 2 days, the focus of attention is on the pressing issues of the day. This will be done in the beautiful setting provided by our hosts, the government and people of the Bahamas, whom I thank for the excellent arrangements and the warm hospitality we have all experienced since our arrival. This is conducive to a most productive meeting. Let me at the outset register the community's appreciation and thanks to the President of Suriname, His Excellency Chandrika Persad Santokhi, the outgoing chairman, for his outstanding tenure over the past 6 months. His calm demeanor and thoughtful leadership guided the community through a difficult time. Thank you, Mr. President. And I welcome and congratulate our new chairman, the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Right Honorable Philip Davis, and look forward to supporting him and his ideas for achieving our integration movement in the coming months. I also welcome to his first regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, who assumed office last August following his party's victory at the polls. Similarly, in recent electoral contests, similarly victorious in the recent electoral contests are the Honorable Gaston Brown, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, and the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister of Dominica. Congratulations to them as they continue to contribute to the development of our region. It gives me great pleasure to acknowledge the presence of the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Director General of the World Trade Organization, Professor Benedict Orama, President of Afreximbank, and Mr. Sergio Diaz Granados, President of CAF, the Latin American Development Bank. We welcome you as friends and as supporters of the community. I also take this opportunity to congratulate Dame Janice Bostwick, who will be bestowed this evening with the CARICOM Triennial Award for Women in recognition of her sterling efforts Thank you, Dame Janet, for your sterling efforts in promoting the rights of women and girls in the Bahamas and across our region. Heads of government, distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, our member states and the global community of nations continue to face many challenges. Many of our economies began to rebound from COVID-induced contractions, only to be affected by sharp inflation and shipping bottlenecks. COVID-19 continued to hover, and the conflict in Ukraine carried on. Our member states again faced the continued onslaught of climate change with the destruction caused by storms, rain events, and drought. Our hard-won development gains continue to be threatened by these challenges. Yet the Caribbean community did, as we often do, we rallied against the challenges. This is particularly important in 2023 when we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the community. This is the year when we commemorate the vision created, the courage had, and the legacy left by those who went before us. It is the year when we renew our commitment to the community and enrich this unique legacy for those who will follow us. This meeting provides us with an opportunity to make long-lasting decisions for our peoples for the next 50 years and beyond. The 43rd regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government held in Paramaribo, Suriname in July 2022 made consequential decisions. I will refer to just two of these. The convening of this meeting as a regular meeting, not an intersessional, follows the agreement to establish a calendar of 6 meetings of the conference annually, with regular in-person meetings being held in February and July, and virtual intersessional meetings scheduled during the year. The conference in July also agreed, in the context of the bilateral relationship with the United States, to urge for the removal of sanctions on Venezuela to allow, among other things, for progress on exploitation of cross-border natural gas fields between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela. This advocacy has borne fruit with the announcement last month by the United States to waive sanctions on Venezuela to allow for the joint project to proceed. At this meeting, decisions on issues such as climate change, food security, and community governance would have a lasting and positive effect on the region over the next 50 years. However, even as progress is being made on some fronts, CARICOM and indeed the wider international community continue to struggle to help Haiti resolve its multifaceted crises. We will continue our efforts to assist all stakeholders in Haiti to ensure a Haitian-owned resolution to the crises. We will have to show the resilience and the fortitude of the Haitian people as we strive to overcome challenges and advance the initiatives to improve the lives of all citizens of our Caribbean community. That goal, to create a safe, sustainable, prosperous, and viable community for all, has been the guiding principle of our efforts for the last 50 years and will continue to guide us over the next 50 and beyond. I thank you and welcome you to this conference.
Continuing in the spirit of celebration, performing a dance presentation choreographed by Mr. Robert Bain with musical accompaniment of an arrangement by legendary Bahamian percussionist Mr. Peanuts Taylor, welcome the National Dance Company of the Bahamas.
Good, they're your island. That's why I came back for more. I saw you swim near my boat and I followed you back to the shore. Hey! Island woman, island woman, she's making me forget who I am.
At this time, we would like to recognize the presence of the newly elected head of government of Antigua and Barbuda, Prime Minister the Honorable Gaston Brown. Please give him a warm round of applause. Welcome the newly elected head of government of St. Kitts and Nevis, Prime Minister the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew.
Good evening, all. From where I stand, a sea of beautiful Caribbean people, I wish you had this vantage point as I do. Gives me great hope that our future as a civilization is, of course, cemented. It's a pleasure. Let me, of course, say from the onset that I recognize all the heads of governments who are here, but let me recognize our Secretary General and also our Prime Minister of this beautiful country of Bahamas, Prime Minister Davis. And I see, of course, a lovely lady next to him, and if it is your wife, I want to recognize her as well. Let me recognize also two special guests, the Prime Minister of Canada, Prime Minister Trudeau, and he apologized earlier for not bringing his wife. And of course, President Orama from the African Export-Import Bank. I deem it an honor for me to deliver brief remarks at this, the 44th intersessional meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community in this beautiful city of Nassau in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I would wish to place on record my appreciation to the government and people of the Bahamas for the excellent arrangements put in place for my delegation and all the other delegations at this meeting. And in the same vein, I would like to congratulate my colleague, the Honorable Philip Davis, on his resumption of the chairmanship of the conference and express my confidence in his stewardship in guiding the proceedings of this meeting and throughout the course of his tenure. I address you today in the context of my recent election to office following the general elections of August 6, 2022. I am conscious of the mantle of leadership and the strong mandate given to me by the citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, and pledge to do my best to ensure that our decisions at this level redound to the benefit and, by extension, to the people of our Caribbean community. Chairman, our Caribbean community today stands at the crossroads, where we must focus our attention on the myriad of challenges confronting us as small island developing states and low-lying coastal communities in an ever-increasing hostile global environment. Our challenges are well known to us. And I point out a few. Vulnerability to the external economic shocks, heavy dependence on a few products or services, frequent and more intense natural disasters, high costs associated with debt and climate change adaptation and mitigation, economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, disruption in supply chains and steady increase in the cost of imports and production exacerbated by the ongoing war in Ukraine. and limited access to grants and concessional financing mechanisms to enable us to recover from external economic and environmental shocks. These overlapping challenges are cross-cutting in their effect. They impact all sectors of the economy, forcing us to play catch-up as we advance our respective development agenda. CARICOM has remained an effective forum for its members to carve a space for the international community to seriously address the structural challenges we face as small states. We strongly believe that greater consideration should be given to the multidimensional vulnerability index as a more holistic metric for addressing the complex issues I highlighted earlier. It is more closely aligned to the ever-present danger we face on an annual basis, having to endure the ravages of natural disaster, including hurricanes, drought, volcanic eruptions, and rising sea levels. Assessing our high GDP does not adequately consider our vulnerability to economic and climate-related shocks. The analysis must involve a holistic approach to addressing vulnerability and provide solutions that are effective and sustainable. The time has come for the international financial institutions to take positive actions to address the realities we face and enable us not only to recover from national disasters, but adapt to the existential threat of climate change by building stronger, more resilient communities to benefit the lives of our people. The St. Kitts and Nevis remains committed to the strengthening of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME, which we regard as training ground for engaging with the wider global economy. We believe in the free movement of skills, services and goods, capital and other key elements of the CSME. We view the region as a single space for the people of our region to live, engage in robust economic activity, and advance the economic and social prospects of our region. It is difficult for us to extol the virtues of the CSME without addressing the proverbial elephant in the room: intra-regional transport. The reality is that it is too difficult and too costly for the people of the region to move and exercise their rights within the single space created for them to do so at optimal levels. For example, coming to this meeting in Bahamas is a classic case in point. Many of us had to fly to Miami, overnight there before taking a flight the following day to our destination here in Nassau, Bahamas. It takes no less than 24 hours to move from country to country within our region at times. Compared to other developed countries with highly developed transport means and modalities, we in the Caribbean remain at a disadvantage in realizing the benefits of the CSME that the framers of the CARICOM Treaty envisaged. Moving from New York, for example, to Washington, D.C. takes a mere 4 hours by car and less than 2 hours by aircraft. The contrast is a stark reality of the challenge we face on an ongoing basis here in the Caribbean. Further, Chapter 6 of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas provides the framework for inter alia, the organization of efficient, reliable, affordable transport services throughout the community, and the promotion of cooperative arrangements for the provision of transport services. We recognize that several bodies of work have been invested in this regard. The Caribbean Development Bank and other key players continue to seek a sustainable solution to fix the gaps that exist and breathe life into Chapter 6 of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. From our vantage point of view, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis has explored several options in collaboration with a few partners to make it easier for people to move to and from our jurisdiction to engage in business or leisurely activities. We encourage other member states to do likewise. We can do it together. We cannot rest on our laurels while the efficiency gap gets wider, causing us to fall behind in achieving our development objectives. And as we approach the celebration of our golden anniversary of our beloved Caribbean community, I urge us to redouble our efforts to improve the effectiveness of and efficiency of organs of our institution. Let us strengthen the pillars of functional cooperation. The theme selected, 50 years strong, a solid foundation to build on, is quite fitting, as it encourages us to consider our rich legacy and build a stronger, more prosperous future. St. Kitts and Nevis remains committed to strengthening regional integration in the upcoming year and beyond. Thank you very much.
Amplifying the happy spirit of the islands, performing a hit song, My Islands in the Sun. Please welcome local singing sensation, Lady E.
And that's their boy, my islands in the sun, 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 sun. Hey, bring it up now. Woo! And that's their boy, my islands in the sun. Carnival time is here, but when I come to party, Junkanoo, that got me wet, so boy, my islands in the sun. Carnival time is here, we could be waking, scraping, winding up and misbehaving. Till the morning comes, yeah, wind up your waist, like you come to mash up the place. It's Bohemian Carnival, and I say, boy, my island's in the sun, Carnival time is here. Yes, and I say, my island's in the sun, Carnival time is here. CARICOM, 700 islands run through me. This bush give me plenty energy, confidence. Process sex to Marigata, drinking gin and coconut water. Boxing day on the Goombe, party all night and day. And I say, my island's in the sun, CARICOM time again. Yes. And I say, my island's in the sun, CARICOM time is here. Here we go. Break and scrape and Junkanoo, master roach and bust a move. Grab your planks and the heel and toe. That's how we Bahamians go. This we culture proud and strong. Grab your houses, beat that drum. Wind your waist down, come alive. This carnival, I say, my island's in the sun. CARICOM time is here. Celebration time is in the air. Love and unity in the atmosphere. We got that Bahamian pipe. Mama tell us deep inside. So put your hands in the air. If we people say yeah, I say, my island's in the sun, CARICOM time is in. Yeah, yeah, I say, my island's in the sun, CARICOM time is in. Come
At this time, we acknowledge the contributions of the Honorable Chandrika Prasad Santokhi, former chair of CARICOM and president of Suriname, who is unable to join us at this time. Please turn your attention to the screen for his presentation.
Raise your voices high and sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong. Feel our hearts beat as one. Celebrate in song as we rise to heights where we belong. Sound the victory drum. Oh, CARICOM, hele, hele, bravo. Oh, pour your sting, CARICOM. Leve, leve, wow.
Colleague heads of government, incoming chairman of the conference, Prime Minister Philip Davis, Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, Dr. Carla Barnett, ministers and senior officials of member states and of the Secretariat, distinguished delegates, members from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. At the outset, allow me to express sincere appreciation to you, colleagues, and all attendees at this opening ceremony of the 44th regular meeting of the Conference of the Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community. It has been a pleasure to work with you all. Let me begin by thanking Prime Minister Philip Davis, his government, and the Bahamas people for hosting this conference and for their outstanding hospitality to all delegates. My apologies for not being there physically because of the budget negotiations in the Parliament and also other domestic issues which needs my attention. But I am here virtually to address you all. Distinguished colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, as I hand over the chairmanship of CARICOM in the able hands of my colleague friend, Prime Minister Philip Davis of the Bahamas, I also take this opportunity to extend congratulations to him for assuming the chairmanship during this 6 months. I'm convinced that with your experience, eminent capability, and commitment, you will undoubtedly lead our deliberations and decision-making in an excellent manner on many issues facing CARICOM member states, taking our community a step further on its way to strengthening the integration process and its position on global matters. Please be assured of full support and cooperation of me, the government, and the people of Suriname during your chairmanship, my friends. It has also been a privilege for me to have served the Caribbean community in a leadership role over the past 6 months, and more so at a time when we were dealing with many global challenges, including the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, affecting energy prices, global supply chains, and food security, as well as with the challenges of climate change. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of CARICOM this year, we are reminded of the vision and goals of the founding fathers, Forrest Burnham, Errol Barrow, Eric Williams, and Michael Manley. Premise on our programs utilizing the resources of the region towards satisfying the needs of the region and competing internationally. Over the years, the region has taken significant steps in creating a solid integration movement. The revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, which provided, among other things, for enhanced cooperation among member states, bears testimony to our resolve to work collaboratively towards one goal sustainable development of the region. This is particularly significant with respect to accelerating the progress towards the CARICOM single market and economy. We are carrying on with our work to facilitate business between our countries. In that regard, the CARICOM Interactive Marketplace Suspension Procedure SIMSIPRO portal was launched last year. SIMSIPRO provides a platform where entrepreneurs from CARICOM can offer their products from raw materials to finished products. It also provides a strategic aim towards improving the efficiency of our regional suspension mechanism directly aimed towards encouraging production. More so, it seeks to develop our industrial policy. Therefore, I encourage the private sector to use this platform well. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as part of the integration process and to facilitate the free movement of skilled persons, in July last year, heads of government agreed on the definitions of skilled workers, household domestics, agriculture workers, and private security officers. In terms of agricultural workers, it could not be timelier as we seek to boost production and to reach our goals of reducing the region's food import bill by 25% by the year 2025. And by mentioning this fact, I extend my compliments to the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, the lead head in the CARICOM Quasi-Cabinet for Agriculture, for spearheading this objective. As there is a great potential to expand the production of non-food items that are most heavily imported into the community, the conference decided to add a new portfolio of industrial policy to the CARICOM Quasi-Cabinet. Since Suriname was assigned this portfolio in collaboration with the CARICOM Secretariat and specialized institutions, we have been working to prepare a draft action plan. It has been proven that exports provides countries with growth opportunities. Therefore, it is crucial to expand and diversify our production. In this respect, I call on member states to participate actively in the process of the industrial policy program to develop the export potential of the non-food sector to contribute to the community's economic growth. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, regarding fostering CARICOM Africa relations, I recall the convening of the first Africa CARICOM Summit held in Bridgetown in 2022 under the theme, One People, One Destiny, Uniting and Reimagining Our Future. Separate from our region's historical relations with the African countries, it is incumbent upon us to strengthen ties with one of the world's most dynamic and fastest growing regions. Within the framework of South-South cooperation, I also recall the celebratory meeting in Barbados for the 50th anniversary of the CARICOM-Cuba relations. The G20 was another opportunity for CARICOM to bring its challenges and opportunities to the international table. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, there is no more significant threat to our children, planet, and future generations than climate change. Climate change is a living reality. However, the outcomes of the major international climate change conferences did not meet our expectations and lacked the ambition and action so much needed in our community. However, emerging from COP27 was an agreement to establish a fund for loss and damages, a significant achievement, particularly for small island and low-lying coastal developing states such as our member states. climate change, desertification, water scarcity, and environmental degradation are life and death realities. I believe these issues remain pertinent and should remain on our active agenda as we move forward to COP28. At the Summit of the Americas, a meeting with U.S. President Joseph Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris resulted in establishing 3 joint committees to address cooperation on finance, food security, and energy security. The attacks by Russia on Ukraine have complicated the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and slowed down a return to normalcy in a post-COVID world. However, we have shown that we will overcome the challenges confronting us with the determination and creativity inherent to the Caribbean peoples. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as lead head responsible for sports, please allow me to express once again appreciation to the following athletes who have represented the region exceptionally at the regional and global levels. We pay tribute to 3 fastest women in the world who all hail from Jamaica. In particular, Thompson Hera, who finished in first place to win the gold medal in the 100-meter dash at the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo. Mrs. Shelley Ann Fraser-Price, who is now the only athlete ever to hold 5 individual 100-meter world titles. And Mrs. Sherika Jackson, who led the way in the 200-meter. The entire Caribbean is proud of the performance of the Jamaican women who brought home so many medals and were instrumental in Jamaica being 3rd in overall medals won. Anderson Peters from Grenada for the 2nd world title in the javelin throw, and the excellent Mrs. Sean Miller-Yubo from the Bahamas, who brought home a world title in the 400-meter. I congratulate all athletes and the entire region. Sports are a cornerstone for developing a healthy population in the Caribbean, and because of your drive, the children in the Caribbean can dream of someday becoming also world champions. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, yes, our sister nation, Haiti, is in need of our concrete and feasible assistance. We must support the Haitian people. Building on our discussions in the past year, I look forward to how and in what way this assistance can be provided. Democracy, free and fair elections, rule of law, and certainly the protection of fundamental human rights are indeed at the core of the Caribbean civilization. We must foster and protect this also in the sister nation in need. Distinguished colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to conclude with a note of thanks. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the Bureau members for the teamwork and their invaluable support and advice throughout. Furthermore, I express appreciation to the Secretary General and her team, particularly the Secretariat, for all their work in facilitating the work and efficient running of my chairmanship. My appreciation also goes to the Minister, staff, and members of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, International Business, and International Cooperation of Suriname, and the CARICOM desk at the Office of the President. I thank you all, and may God bless you all.
Raise your voices high and sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong. Feel our hearts beat as one. Celebrate in song
It is now time for the presentation of the 13th CARICOM Triennial Award. Let us welcome the esteemed honoree, the Right Honorable Dame Janet Bostwick. Welcome, Mrs. Sierra Mann, a 2022 youth parliamentarian and current student of the University of the Bahamas, who will read the citation in recognition of the conferring of CARICOM's 13th Triennial Award for Women.
Good evening. Citation: Conference of the 13th Triennial Award for Women on the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick, CBDBE. Whereas on the 4th of June, 2021, CARICOM announced that the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick, venerated Bahamian, esteemed intellectual, and respected altruist, will be the 13th outstanding woman from the Caribbean community to receive the CARICOM Triennial Award for Women. And whereas the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick is an outstanding counsel and attorney, a model politician, and a pioneer among women in the Bahamas. And whereas the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick is admired and respected as a champion for the empowerment of women, not only in her native Commonwealth of the Bahamas, but also in the region and beyond. And whereas the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick has the distinction of having achieved several firsts in her career. These include the first female Secretary General of the Bahamas, the first female prosecutor, the first female president of the Bar Association, the first female chairman of the Bar Council, the first female member of Parliament following her election in 1982, first female Attorney General, and first female Minister of Foreign Affairs, and also the first female to act as the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And whereas the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick has held the portfolio of the Minister of Social Services, Housing, and National Insurance, and Minister of Justice and Immigration. Throughout her tenure as a cabinet minister, she has always held ministerial responsibilities for women affairs. And whereas the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick's activism on women issues is renowned, having started her campaign in the mid-60s and continued throughout her political career. And whereas the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick served as a trade unionist and campaigned to improve the status of women, primarily because of the inequities they faced regarding the gender pay gap, non-existent maternity benefits, and job insecurity. And whereas the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick, upon admittance to the bar, became an even more vocal advocate for women's rights, to audiences in churches, women's groups, and unions for more participation of men in the rearing of children, and the changes in legislation related to sexual offenses, domestic violence, and matrimonial matters. And whereas the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick, in her quest of women's rights between 1994 and 1992, led the Bahamian delegation at the OAS Inter-American Commission of Women and served on its committee. Since 1994, she has served on the Executive Committee of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. In 1995, she served as a regional vice chairperson of the Bureau of the United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing, China. At this conference, she was the head of the delegation of the Bahamas, and the Bahamas was unanimously selected to coordinate the Caribbean region. In this capacity, she presided at all CARICOM meetings. And whereas the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick, in espousing the cause of women and development, has pursued this interest with rigorous scholarships and distinguished herself that in 2001. She was presented with the University of India's Vice Chancellor's Award for Excellence in Teaching, Administration, Research, and Public Service. And whereas the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick broadened her advocacy to include the administration of justice and young persons, the maintenance and resolution of issues associated with children born out of wedlock, and improved custody. And whereas the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick, in paying tribute to an outstanding academic, political, and social and philanthropic contributions of this year's awardee, we acknowledge the fact that the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick has been an inspiration and mentor to the younger generation of Bahamian and regional scholars, politicians, and social activists. And now, therefore, at this 44th regular meeting of heads of governments of the Caribbean community, on this 15th day of February, 2023, in the year of our Lord, we now so confer upon the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Philip Davis, Chairman of the Heads of Government of CARICOM and Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, who will present the 13th Triennial Award for Women to the Right Honorable Dame Janet Gwyneth Bostwick.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Philip Davis, Chairman of CARICOM, Your Excellency, Dr. Carla Barnett, Secretary General of CARICOM, heads of government and heads of state and associate states, delegates, Mr. President Justin Trudeau, Mr. President Rama, leaders from countries around the world, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really overwhelmed. And I'm taking an elderly woman's prerogative. They gave me 7 minutes, but this is a little bit longer than 7 minutes, please. From November 1957 and for years afterwards, I sat at my desk on the second floor of the Supreme Court building, Nassau, and I witnessed the Friday morning congregation of women, some of them with their children, outside the magistrate's court below, as they waited for trial of their summonses for maintenance or seeking restraining orders in domestic violence matters. I heard their cries. That was my introduction to family law matters. But over the years, I became painfully cognizant of the inequities suffered by women in most aspects of life, not only here in my country, but throughout the region. But it was actually at a CPA conference in 1991 in Harare, where I was exposed to women who knew firsthand or had experienced personally unimaginable gender-based violence and atrocities, immolation of widows on the burning pyres of their deceased husbands, female gender mutilation, forced child marriages, deprivation of education or health service, and the list goes on. It was then that I knew that I had to be a part of that group which sought change and global recognition of men and women as equal partners in every respect. Much has been accomplished since that time, and I thank those who've enabled me to make a contribution to that change. And this starts with my parents, Lois and Nick Musgrove, my one brother now deceased, and my sisters, Lois, Lynn, Jackie, Willie, and Linda. I thank you for your support. And there's my husband, Henry, an extraordinary man, a spouse who encouraged, inspired, and sought to motivate me to seek election to Parliament from the time we were childhood school sweethearts, high school sweethearts. And that was even before women had the right to vote in the Bahamas. An extraordinary man who became my champion in many ways, but who is not here with me tonight because of advanced dementia. I honor you, Henry. I hold the torch of freedom. I continue to hold the cause of freedom and good governance for both of us. Then each of my children, Margot, Kelly, Lisa, and John, who sacrificed mom time, who campaigned, supported, and at times shielded and protected me, suffering great abuse and personal degradation because of their parents' political involvement, but who have developed into strong individuals, all nationalists of whom I am proud. Their partners, my grandchildren, Alexander, Arias, Stephanie, John 3, and Victor, who is the only grandchild able to be here with me tonight. My great-grandchildren, nieces, nephews, and in-laws, thank you. I thank my adopted sons and daughters. I thank the late Sirs Clement Maynard, Kendall Isaacs, and Cecil Wallace Whitfield for their support. I extend my special thanks to former Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham, who entrusted me with ministerial portfolios which played pivotal roles in the development of our country and enabled me to be involved in most of those activities for which I am today being honored. My thanks goes also to former Prime Minister Hubert Minnis for the national honors that he bestowed upon me. And I also thank our present Prime Minister, Right Honorable Philip Brave Davis, for presenting this honor to me today and for memorializing my election to Parliament by erection of a plaque in Parliament. Thank you. Thanks to former Minister Franklin Campbell and Dr. Jacinta Hicks for recommending me for this prestigious award, and to the CARICOM Committee for choosing me from an array of very distinguished and qualified women, so that I now join the rank of 12 exceptionally outstanding women of the community who have made invaluable contribution to the development of their nations and the region. I am grateful. Very much has been accomplished, but much remains to be done. We do not have the luxury, ladies, of focusing our attention primarily on achieving gender equity or equality. With the real threat of climate change, we must fight now for our very lives and the continued existence of our nations. And women who are always the most vulnerable should lead this fight. We are blessed to have Prime Minister Mia Mottley lead the charge against climate change. And we're so proud because she is a woman. But all of us must do our part. The lives of our children are at stake. We must take personal responsibility to ensure that our actions lead to the decrease of carbon emissions in our own countries and to guard against pollution of our waters by ourselves, as well as by international vessels cruising our seas. We must encourage our governments to be mindful in the trade of our precious carbon credits to ensure that that trade does not facilitate the continued level of emissions by those whose decreased emissions are essential to our survival. There is much to be done. I heard the cries of those women in 1957. And if you listen, you hear the cries of mothers now. They cry for food security. They need food for their children. They cry for cessation of violence. They cry for better education and for better and affordable health services. And yes, they cry for equal rights with their men. While we do not in any way discount the rights of all persons to pursue those objectives that are specifically important and relevant to them and the choices which they made, we must be careful to not be distracted from our cause for the rights of women. It is a battle that is still too far from victory, and it is a battle which, in my humble opinion, is not receiving the acknowledgement, attention, and action that is required to ensure that the injustices are eliminated. It is a battle that has been relegated to a position of lesser importance and is being choked by the clamor of others. This is tragic. Every one of us who ever existed came into existence through woman. We cannot afford to give precedence to the rights of others if we do not first successfully address and eliminate the inequities that exist throughout our diaspora and indeed throughout the world in respect of the rights of us women. I submit that for this, we need no redefinition of woman. There is much to be done. We hear the cries of Haiti. Haiti's problem is a CARICOM problem, not one to be solved by others. We must be seen to unite and fight for Haiti. I pray, heads and delegates, that God guides your deliberation in this respect, and that this conference results in action which addresses the problem without the historical exploitation of Haiti. God guard your deliberations, and again I say, thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
Congratulations, Dame Janet Bostwick. We're so appreciative of all that you have done and continue to do for the Bahamas, the Caribbean, and the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to present the Crown Jewels of the Bahamas, a group of young people who have well represented us all over the world. Under the direction of Mr. Dexter Fernanda, we present to you the Bahamas National Youth Choir. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure we introduce the incumbent chair of CARICOM. Please stand and give a warm welcome to the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the Honorable Philip Davis.
Good evening, please have a seat. Your Excellencies and fellow heads of government, honored and distinguished guests from within and beyond the Caribbean region, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity, though, to recognize that in our midst we have the Deputy Secretary of State for the United States, Brian Nichols. Is he still here? Yes. I think former Senators John Kerry and Chris Dodd, my friend, it's Chris. Thank you all for joining us here. And of course, our friend Justin, welcome to the Bahamas. It's been a long time. I continue to remind him that this was his father's second home. He spent a lot of time here with Dame Marguerite Penling, who's present with us tonight. I also acknowledge the presence of three former prime ministers. I start with the senior, Hubert Alexander Ingram. Perry Christie, Honorable Perry Christie, and Hubert Alexander Minnis. I welcome them all here. And just let me say to all the delegates and friends, welcome to the islands of the Bahamas. And welcome to the 44th regular meeting of the heads of government of the Caribbean community. You visit us as we embark on celebrations for our 50th anniversary of independence. During these 50 years, we have steadily created every major institution in our country, defining ourselves not merely as being independent of others, but as free people determined to pursue our own path to fulfillment. But even as we embarked on this road to self-determination, we knew that we could not go it alone. As our founding father, Sir Lyndon Penling, proclaimed on our accession to membership to the United Nations, we wish to enjoy the friendship and benefit from the association, the wisdom and experience of those who wish to be our friends and respect our freedom as we want and know it. So it was that we also joined this regional family of nations. In this joint celebration of the 50th anniversary of our independence and the 50th anniversary of the founding of CARICOM, in a very real way, there is a deep understanding and pride to have come this far. And as it is in the Bahamas, so it is that our region also faces a host of opportunities and an array of challenges. We should take great comfort from the fact that our forebears came together 50 years ago, exactly for this purpose, to take full advantage of the opportunities of our time and to implement solutions to the challenges that confront us. The four pillars upon which our relationship stands has borne fruit in good times and in bad. Our commitment to functional cooperation has been powerfully expressed in education, health, and culture. Our coordination in foreign policy matters has strengthened and amplified our voice in global affairs and given us greater influence over the outcome of international debate. As near neighbors, our collaborative efforts to enhance our mutual security and for some to advance economic integration has united us in common cause to promote national and regional development. Our shared history, steeped in triumph and struggle, is testament to our resilience and determination. In the coming days, we will need to draw on that experience as we engage with the many issues on our agenda. Colleagues, friends, I believe we are in vigorous agreement that the crisis in Haiti requires our urgent attention. The turmoil and suffering there continue to worsen. As a near neighbor, the Bahamas is under great strain, and many other countries in our region are already heavily impacted. We will all benefit if Haiti is again fully functioning as a state. We should learn from the failures of past efforts to help, rather than use these disappointments as an excuse for inaction. I pray that we can agree a series of concrete steps to help move towards a solution for the Haitian people and the region as a whole. We have learned that inaction has its own costs and consequences. Nowhere is that more the case than on the issue of climate change, which threatens to upend our lives around the world and presents an existential threat to so many of us in this region. Yet, even though we in the CARICOM region are especially vulnerable to the rising sea levels and temperatures, erosion of our coastal communities, and hurricanes which are more frequent and more intense, by working together, we show that we are not powerless. I have no doubt that in joining our voices last year to present an agreed position at COP27, we helped to influence the shift in position relating to loss and damage arising from the impact of climate change. There's also genius amongst us. The Bridgetown Initiative, which proposes reforms to the global financial architecture, is a shining example of how this region has much to contribute to solving critical international issues. Even though it is not the result of climate change, the disastrous earthquake which recently struck the border region between Turkey and Syria is a reminder of what unseen natural events can do. As of today, over 40,000 people are reported to have died. Countless others are missing. We offer our prayers and condolences to all those affected. Colleagues, friends, other issues also command our attention. Investment and cooperation in education, infrastructure, food and energy security will help to support our collective national development. For all the losses and havoc wrought by the COVID-19 pandemic, it did teach us valuable lessons about what's important and about what we need to do to save lives and livelihoods. For example, here in the Bahamas, we have in the past talked about the need to ensure food security. But since the advent of the pandemic, we recognize that the need to be able to feed ourselves was not just an economic nicety, but a matter of survival. Some of the other priority issues are more protective. We should seek to strengthen our collective response to end the smuggling of drugs and guns. And we must do all that we can to wipe out the misery of human trafficking. Let us seize the opportunity provided by this meeting to make concrete progress in each of these areas. We must remain alive to the possibilities. Our friends at the Afri-Exim Bank have allocated already $1.5 billion to invest in the CARICOM region. Should remaining CARICOM members join those of us who have already signed the agreed memorandum of understanding, that figure would be doubled to $3 billion. I encourage you to sign. By moving together, we can achieve something which benefits us all. Colleagues and friends, the newspaper headlines from 50 years ago bear startling similarities to the ones we see today. Rising oil prices, skyrocketing inflation, fractured civil society, and seemingly intractable wars appear not to have gone away. Most of these events are not of our making, but they impact the lives of people in the region in a very significant way. But one thing is certain: whether the issues are old or new, in order to make lasting progress, we must address and promote our narrow national self-interest firmly within the framework of the interests of us all. None of us will be safe until we are all safe. None of us will develop sustainably or securely if we leave our neighbors behind. None of us will truly prosper if our resources are forever taxed by the poverty and instability of those nearby. Going it alone will not work. That is not to say that while we continue to strengthen and build our region, we should dilute or abandon the founding principle of our nation states, namely the right to self-determination. And when that principle is tested, we must stand firm. This is true whether it is the border disputes such as the long-standing issues between Guyana and Venezuela, Belize and Guatemala, or as it concerns the internal democracy in our associated states of Bermuda, the Turks and Caicos Islands, and the British Virgin Islands. Further afield, we also reaffirm our support for the people of Ukraine, whose sovereignty is being threatened by the Russian invasion of their territory. As neighbors, we should continue to embrace each other and know that we will all succeed if we hold fast the threads that bind us together. Colleagues and friends, the 50th anniversary of CARICOM presents us with a golden opportunity. In celebrating the institutions and achievements of these 5 decades, the many peoples of our region should look back and rightly feel a sense of pride in all that has been gained and the value added to the region. But it also presents an occasion to look forward, to seize the opportunity to collaborate, to cooperate, and through our collective effort, build a stronger, more resilient, and more prosperous region. The University of the West Indies is a shining testament to the difference CARICOM has made to the lives of the people of the region. Let us build the equivalent in other areas of life. While our work here over the next few days will be all-consuming, I do hope you find just enough time to experience our islands, our people, and our culture. And if not on this visit, then certainly the next. Whatever the reason, whatever the time, you are most welcome. I thank you.
The incoming chair of CARICOM, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the Honorable Philip Davis. We welcome the Most Reverend Drexel W. Gomez, retired Anglican Archbishop of the Province of the West Indies, to give us the benediction. Please remain standing.
Good evening. Let us pray. Sovereign Lord and Heavenly Father, to you belong all power and glory. You are the source of all goodness. Your mercies are without number and without end. Remember, Lord, for good, all the inhabitants of your created universe, especially all who in every place call upon your name and seek your enabling grace. And may your kingdom come in all the world, on earth as it is in heaven. At this time, Lord, we entreat you to look graciously upon the countries of our beloved Caribbean homeland, represented at this 44th meeting of the heads of government of CARICOM. We offer special petitions for the leaders of our CARICOM states and all who make decisions on our behalf, that they may be guided by your Holy Spirit to direct our affairs in the ways of justice, truth, and freedom for all the inhabitants of our Caribbean lands. And we pray for wisdom and discernment for our leaders that will facilitate in time the improvement in the quality of life for all Caribbean peoples. And finally, Father, we request that you let your blessing rest upon our families and those we love, as we intentionally seek to strengthen home and family life across our Caribbean lands. Watch over the young facing so many challenges. Support the aged. Relieve those in pain and sickness, and encourage those who render assistance to them. Comfort the sorrowful, and to the poor, the hungry, the unemployed, and all victims of discrimination of any kind, we ask you, Lord, to give relief, justice, and protection across our Caribbean land. And Lord, let your peace, your infinite peace, rest upon us all through your Son, Jesus Christ, our ever-living Lord and Savior. Amen and amen.
Please be seated. We have come to the end of our program. On behalf of the members of CARICOM and the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, we thank you for your presence here this evening. We ask that you allow our dignitaries to leave first and to join us in the foyer for a reception. However, it is not fitting to end an event like this in the Bahamas without the pulsating sounds of Junkanoo. Welcome, Colors Entertainment.
Colors Entertainment there, entertaining the leaders of the region and delegates to this 44th regular session of CARICOM Heads of Government meeting. Of course, we heard from the Prime Minister, we heard from the Secretary General, we heard from the outgoing
chair of CARICOM, the Prime Minister of Suriname. We also heard from the newly elected Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. But yeah, wrapping all that up, just to, I guess, focus a little bit or spend a little bit of time on all the talent and culture that came, the infusion of talent and culture that came here tonight at this opening ceremony. It was a spectacular display of culture. I guess you could
diverse,
say,
I think.
Diverse culture because you had a lot of youth participation in it as well. You had the National Youth Choir. You also had entertainment from Lady E. You had the National Children's Choir. And, of course, no event here in the Bahamas is any event to speak of without, like you say, Junkanoo. And tonight that's being put on by Colors Entertainment.
Absolutely. And if you're on your screens now, you're seeing some recaps of the moments of tonight's official opening ceremony. And, of course, one of the highlights is the award, the Triennial Award, that was given to Dame Janet Bostwick. She is the 12th person to receive this award that is given to women who've done exceptional work in their careers in service to government in the region.
An exceptionally proud moment for Dame Janet Bostwick. Like you said, she's among just a few women to have achieved or been presented this award. And in her address, she made an impassioned plea for women to lead the charge against climate change. And climate change is one of several topics she addressed in her 7-minute speech, she said, or it may be a bit longer. But she called on women to lead the charge against climate change. And, you know, she stressed that the lives of our children depend on it. The lives of our children are at stake. And so, therefore, women have to take personal responsibility to reduce things like carbon emissions. She also noted that the rights of women is still a battle that's far from victory, and that a battle regulated to a position she called that it seems of lesser importance. And she noted that this is tragic and that we must do our best to eliminate inequalities. Now, on the issue of CARICOM itself, Dame Janet noted that while we have made much progress in CARICOM, there's still much work to be done. And Dame Janet stands tall, of course, in our community. She is one of many firsts. She's the first acting prime minister, the first female acting prime minister, and the first female attorney general, and those are just a few of the first she holds down.
First Minister of Foreign Affairs. I was fortunate enough to work with her on some occasions, including being part of the lobby for her to be elected to the Council of Women, which was held in Beijing in the 90s, 94, 95, I think. But yes, a woman of many firsts. And I thought it was so sweet for her to say how overwhelmed she was.
Yes, and she credits a lot of champions, she called them, but key among them, her husband, her children, her grandchildren, her family. But standing by is our Altavis Munnings. Altavis?
Julian and Makushla, it is traditional for the Secretary General of the Caribbean Community to always address the opening ceremony. That's where she provides some highlights of exactly what will take place during the meeting, and this year was no different. Dr. Carla Barnett, very passionate about issues facing the Caribbean community, and in particular, she maintains that the ongoing political crisis in Haiti will remain a paramount issue on the Caribbean agenda.
We will continue our efforts to assist all stakeholders in Haiti to ensure a Haitian-owned resolution to the crisis. We will have to show the resilience and the fortitude of the Haitian people as we strive to overcome challenges and advance the initiatives to improve the lives of all citizens of our Caribbean community. That goal, to create a safe, sustainable, prosperous, and viable community for all has been the guiding principle of our efforts for the last 50 years and will continue to guide us over the next 50 and beyond.
And Dr. Barnett also welcomed the newest heads of government to this regional meeting this week. And she also implored all delegates to ensure that they learn more about what's happening across the Caribbean. Back to you, Makushla.
Well, Makushla, I must point out a little bit about Dr. Carla Barnett, people who may not be familiar with her. She is the 8th Secretary General of CARICOM and took office on the 15th of August of 2021. She's an economist who has worked across the CARICOM region for 30 years, was the first woman to be appointed as Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Belize. She also was a politician and contested the 2015 Belize general elections, was a senator and a Minister of State in the government of Belize from 2015 to 2020.
Now, I know Dr. Barnett, she's heading into these discussions in hopes that there will be excellent discussions, that some progress will be made. And as we just heard, progress particularly on issues like climate change, challenging issues like climate change, and of course, food security and again, inflation. Now, among other speakers taking the podium tonight to give an address was the newly elected Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, in the person of Dr. Terence Drew, who expressed confidence in the new chair, and that's Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Davis. That out the way, he acknowledged CARICOM stands at what he calls a crossroad, focusing on a myriad of challenges, and they include vulnerability and external shocks, climate change, again, economic recovery coming out of COVID, inflation, and limited access to grants to recover from external shocks.
The time has come for the international financial institutions to take positive actions to address the realities we face and enable us not only to recover from national disasters, but adapt to the existential threat of climate change by building stronger communities to benefit the lives of our people.
Now, while the Bahamas is not a member of CSME, and we haven't so far expressed an interest in becoming a member of CSME, or as it's known by some others, Caribbean Single Market and Economy, the St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister, like many others, says his country remains committed to that movement. He, however, drew attention to the elephant in the room, intra-regional transport.
The reality is that it is too difficult and too costly for the people of the region to move and exercise their rights within the single space created for them to do so at optimal levels. For example, coming to this meeting in Bahamas is a classic case in point. Many of us had to fly to Miami, overnight there before taking a flight the following day to our destination here in Nassau, Bahamas. It takes no less than 24 hours to move from country to country within our region at times. Compared to other nations, developed countries with highly developed transport means and modalities, we in the Caribbean remain at a disadvantage in realizing the benefits of the CSME that the framers of the CARICOM Treaty envisaged.
Now, zooming in specifically on CARICOM itself, he called for the body to become more effective.
Let us strengthen the pillars of functional cooperation. The theme selected, 50 years strong, a solid foundation to build on, is quite fitting, as it encourages us to consider our rich legacy and build a stronger, more prosperous future.
Well, Julian, like I mentioned, we're not a part of the CSME.
Never have been. I doubt we ever will
And it
be.
seems like we have no interest in becoming a member of the CMSE.
But the main thing is there's some frailties in the CSME right now that have to be dealt with. So for those who are part of the CSME, that's a critical point that they'll be dealing with over the next few days.
He also spoke about the effectiveness of CARICOM, which off camera we were talking about if CARICOM is as effective as it should be, if it's still relevant, especially to the younger generation. Do you think that would make its way into discussions?
I don't see why it is. I think that it is extremely important, extremely relevant. As the Prime Minister said, none of us is safe until we're all safe, and we've got to work together. We are stronger together than we're not. Now, we've seen a recent example of that globally where the UK withdrew from the European Union. And I believe X amount of years later, people realize that was a very bad choice. I think it'll be a similar choice if we ever considered leaving CARICOM.
Well, now we also heard, well, actually, youth, like we said, played a big part in the opening ceremony, and that in the form of Sierra Ramming, who actually did what's called a citation on Dame Janet Boswick. A very moving tribute to her, going down a list of all her accolades. We also have on the agenda tonight, we also heard from, like you said, the outgoing member of CARICOM, who assured the Prime Minister that he has his full support. He's not physically here, and he said that's due to domestic issues that is happening in his home country, and for those reasons he cannot leave. But he noted that with the Prime Minister Philip Davis's experience, he has no confidence. He has all confidence, rather, that the Prime Minister will lead the discussions over the next 2 days in an excellent manner, and that he will take the community, albeit his tenure is only for the next 6 months, he will take the community a step further. Climate change, he also noted climate change. He stressed the fact that we need to accept that it's just not 2 words. It's a life or death situation, and which should remain as active issues as the body moves toward COP28.
I think we actually have to take a little break at this point in our podcast. Stay with us. We'll have more from the Grand Ballroom of Atlantis at the official opening ceremony of the 44th regular session of the Heads of Government of CARICOM. Welcome back. You may see a lot of action going on behind us, and that's because there's a big reception going on for the CARICOM leaders and delegates to this 44th regular session of the heads of government of CARICOM. They seem to be having quite a good time. But we have someone special that you want to introduce, right?
Well, we have our Alto V's Munning standing by with a special guest. Alto V's?
Julian and Makushla, the presence of Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, is very significant to the Caribbean, and he's expected to address the Caribbean heads tomorrow about the ongoing political crisis in Haiti. We also understand that he's having a press conference to enlighten the press on exactly what he will be informing regional leaders about Canada's involvement in the Haitian political crisis. Joining me now is the Bahamas High Commissioner to Canada, His Excellency V. Alfred Gray. No stranger here to the Bahamas. High Commissioner, tell us first of all about Prime Minister Trudeau's significant visit to Nassau for this week's CARICOM Heads of Government meeting.
Well, we are delighted to have the Prime Minister of Canada grace us with his presence during this 2-3-day conference. My understanding is that he will be speaking to the conference on several issues, not the least of which is the problems which exist in Haiti. Haiti is a problem for the Caribbean region more than perhaps anywhere else. And it takes a little more than the Caribbean nations' manpower, economic power, and otherwise to resolve or bring some resolve to the people's problems in Haiti. Of course, Haitians must solve their own problems, but we have an obligation to help them to do so. And I think Prime Minister Trudeau's presence here would say a lot, and it'll go a long way in letting the international community know that Canada is on board with respect to seeking to find a solution to the problems in Haiti. Haiti needs stability, and without stability, the government of Haiti will certainly not be able to function as a government. And so hopefully in the next few days, they may find a way forward to bring some resolution to the problems which exist in Haiti.
You're approaching your 6-month tenure as High Commissioner to Canada, representing the Bahamas. Tell us about what you have been doing since you got landed in the very cold weather of Canada.
It's very cold, but the truth is I have been a part of the Bahamian trade mission to Canada led by the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable I. Chester Cooper, and Minister Ginger Moxie from Freeport, Grand Bahama, and Minister Lightburn representing the education component of that mission. And I can tell you over the last 2 or 3 weeks, they spent about 4 days in Canada, and all of the discussions, and I don't want to go into every discussion, but every single discussion seemed to me that fruits will be born as a result of the discussions which are ongoing. I am told that there will be a memorandum of understanding that will be signed shortly between some of the players and the Bahamas, and I'm looking forward with tiptoe anticipation to being a part of that signature and, of course, the continuing efforts to ensure that we bring Canada to the Bahamas as much as is possible, educationally, by way of investments, technical assistance, and student exchange programs. We are going to work hard to ensure that Canada's involvement with what we do in the Bahamas become real.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
It's always good to be home, and I go back on Sunday in the cold. I'm tolerating it, but honestly, I do not like the cold. But I'll get used to it.
Yes, you will.
After a while.
Good to see you, sir. All the best.
It's always good to see you.
Thank you, sir. All the best.
Have a nice evening.
That was the High Commissioner to Canada, His Excellency V. Alfred Gray, shedding some light on his tenure in the cold weather in the north. Back to you, Julian and Makushla.
Thank you, Altaviz. And of course, High Commissioner Gray is a very experienced functionary, understands the Bahamas well and what the Bahamas need. So I am sure he is giving it his all as he serves as the High Commissioner there.
Well, having been in cabinet, I am sure he understands the inner workings of what it must take, or have some understanding of what it must take to stabilize Haiti as well. But there's a recurring theme when it comes to Haiti, that we must help Haiti, but Haiti must help itself in the process. And in an off-camera interview with the Foreign Affairs off-camera talks, rather, with the Foreign Affairs Minister, Fred Mitchell, he said, you know, there has to be a decision to intervene. That's a given. But the question is, who'll do it?
But we know who, well, it's expected, and it is hoped, that Canada will take the lead on that. And really, that's part of the reason why Prime Minister Trudeau is here. I guess the framework will have to work out. But whatever's agreed, it is going to take a long time to see any kind of real change in Haiti. And that's something, sadly, we have to accept. But we have to try and push a little harder to make sure that we can actually reach some kind of resolution, hopefully by the end of this meeting.
I think one thing is a lot's riding on free and fair elections in Haiti. The Haitian government, Haitian officials indicated that earlier that that's slated to happen this year.
Well, that is very unlikely, I think.
Very unlikely as far as the Foreign Affairs Minister is concerned as well. But, you know, the Bahamas has committed to itself that if it is requested, we will send troops in, we will send officers in to help.
That won't be surprising because we've done it before and we've done it well, so it's expected. But we have to move on a little bit here. You spoke about Haiti, and of course the Prime Minister, Philip Davis, actually spoke about that, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But he started off by highlighting the work of the first Prime Minister of the Bahamas, the independent Bahamas, Lyndon Pindling, and focused on what he said when the Bahamas joined CARICOM in 1983. But he also reminded other members that all of those founders of CARICOM, they had opportunities and they also had challenges quite similar to what we have now, but they dealt with them. So he says you just have to continue working together. And here's what he says in this clip about Haiti and climate change.
Colleagues, friends, I believe we are in vigorous agreement that the crisis in Haiti requires our urgent attention. The turmoil and suffering there continue to worsen. As a near neighbor, the Bahamas is under great strain, and many other countries in our region are already heavily impacted. We will all benefit if Haiti is again fully functioning as a state. We should learn from the failures of past efforts to help, rather than use these disappointments as an excuse for inaction. I pray that we can agree a series of concrete steps to help move towards a solution for the Haitian people and the region as a whole. We have learned that inaction has its own costs and consequences. Nowhere is that more the case than on the issue of climate change, which threatens to upend our lives around the world and presents an existential threat to so many of us in this region. Yet, even though we in the CARICOM region are especially vulnerable to the rising sea levels and temperatures, erosion of our coastal communities, and hurricanes which are more frequent and more intense, by working together, we show that we are not powerless.
Well, the Prime Minister also spoke about the importance of greater investment in education. He also spoke about the Bridgetown Initiative, which is designed to actually relieve the hardship or challenges that people in the region have in banking. And that's another reason why the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is here. Most of our banks are they're Canadian-based, most of them in the region. But moving forward, the Prime Minister said, we have to embrace each other. And this 50th anniversary of CARICOM, and of course the Bahamas, gives us special opportunities to take advantage of what he says are golden opportunities. Your thoughts about the Prime Minister's speech?
I think also what was a sticking point for me is that his address did not only focus, it was primarily about CARICOM, but he also spent a little time on, renewing his support for the Ukrainian people. He said it's a matter of if we succeed, if we hold fast to prayer. The Prime Minister firmly believes that. And like you said, he noted that it's a golden opportunity to celebrate this 44th regular meeting is a golden opportunity to celebrate 5 decades of achievement, but also it presents an occasion to look and collaborate and cooperate for a stronger and more prosperous region. So the Prime Minister is focused on a lot of hard-hitting issues, and of course those issues will be front and center for the next 2 days. But he also took time to send his support, his love, and all that's needed for the people of Ukraine who are now 1 year into a war with Russia.
Actually, what I was going to say, talking about Ukraine, and a lot of people can't understand why the Ukraine wants relations with us, but I was very fortunate to have an interview with the ambassador of Ukraine to the Bahamas. He says the Bahamas is a very strong, modern, developing country, right, and has a solid system of democracy. And those are the things that countries like Ukraine really want to embrace. So a little bit more in common than we think. Yeah?
And speaking of the Ukraine, just on a final note, the Ukrainian president is actually scheduled to send in a video message, and that's slated for Friday morning to drum up even more support for his people in this very difficult time.
And I'm sure that will be very warmly and keenly embraced. Now, I believe we're going to soon be showing
our broadcast times.
Absolutely.
Our broadcast times moving ahead on Thursday and Friday. Our Live at CARICOM schedule. The pre-show is with Altavis Munnings, and that's a morning pre-show, and that begins at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow.
And it'll be just us.
Just us tomorrow. Just us on the post. Friday, Thursday and Friday, just Julian and I on the post show, and that begins at 8:30.
Yes.
And of course, we'll give you a full recap of those plenary sessions that would have taken place earlier in the day.
Information about things that went on inside. There you are on your screen once again, the times for the morning show and the evening show. We'll take a break and come back with more from the Grand Ballroom at the Atlantis Resort right after this. Welcome back.
Well, welcome back again to the live coverage of our post-show of the 44th regular meeting of the CARICOM heads of governments here at the Atlantis Resort, the opening ceremony, that is. We now go again to our Altavis Munnings, who's standing by with the FAO Ambassador Winston Pinnock.
Julian and Makushla, food security is another high priority item on this week's CARICOM Heads of Government meeting agenda, and the one of the executives of the Food and Agricultural Organization is in town to give CARICOM heads an update on their progress. Joining me now is the Bahamas' ambassador to the Food and Agriculture Organization, His Excellency Winston Pinnock. And Ambassador Pinnock, let our viewers know exactly some of the issues the FAO wants to raise to the region this week.
Okay, good afternoon. Before I talk specifically about the issues the FAO is raising, the Assistant Director General, Mario Lubetkin, is in town with a team. Met with Prime Minister Davis today and also the Minister of Agriculture. I want to first say that PM Davis, and not because I have the privilege of being a part of the administration, has definitely demonstrated in my lifetime the greatest interest and passion for developing agriculture. And I think it's no secret. We are in an environment, not only here in the Bahamas, but in the region, where food security is one of the top issues for our country and for the region. And I say we are near the bottom in terms of being food secure. And in traveling around the region and the world, this keeps coming up. And so what PM has tasked the minister with, and myself to the extent that I played a role as ambassador, is really to get the country moving and get it in terms of developing agriculture. The Food and Agricultural Organization plays a critical role in helping us with technical assistance and helping us to qualify to get financial assistance from the many organizations around the world so that we can entice our population to get into farming. And in another program, I think a week or so in Freeport ago, I mentioned that we're in an era where agriculture has become technologically savvy. You know, we're talking about now FAO is here, the Assistant Director General, and we've never had the privilege of having someone at that high level to come to the Bahamas. And so we got him to come to see firsthand what we're dealing with, the struggles we're having. Climate change is also affecting our ability to feed ourselves. And so all that is tied in together. And so what we're doing this week, as we did when Ambassador McCain from the U.S. came in town, is really bringing the international bodies to the Bahamas so that they can see what we're experiencing and to help us qualify to get lots of money that's available for countries like ours to be able to improve agriculture and to make our country more food secure.
Always good to see you. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
That was the Bahamas ambassador to the Food and Agriculture Organization, His Excellency Winston Pinnock, just giving us an update on what the FAO wants to raise, some of the issues the FAO wants to raise with CARICOM heads this week at their annual meeting. Back to you, Julian and Makushla.
Thank you, Alto. And of course, I believe we're going to have a press conference tomorrow from the FAO representative, the Assistant Director General, I believe it is. But, you know, we talk about food security, but we have a very, very, very recent example about the concerns about that. And COVID-19 was it. 2 years. You know, still a situation to worry about.
Yeah, our food security problem is very real. We've had governments after governments stress the fact that we have a staggering food import bill that is not slowing up. It's not being reduced. The Prime Minister just recently, Mr. Pinnock touched on it, that the Prime Minister has a passion for developing agriculture. And the Prime Minister just recently noted that, you know, he's really pushing to launch this ag program. But he admits that hey, not a lot of people are interested in agriculture, and that's the sad reality of this. Pinnock also touched on climate change and the international bodies that are here that they hope give a listening ear to that other issue. International bodies we have in the person of John Kerry, like we said, the U.S. Special Envoy on climate change. So hopefully some things come out of that.
Well, we're going to go back to Altaviz Munnings because she will be the host of tomorrow's session, which begins at 8:30 a.m. and will be live here on the ZNS network. Fill us in on what you expect to cover tomorrow, Alto.
Well, Julian and Makushla, right now inside the convention center here at the Atlantis Paradise Island Resort, some of the media houses that were covering the official opening ceremony are still continuing to take down some of their equipment. But I can tell you that I was so excited to be inside this room as the official opening ceremony was taking place. I've covered several CARICOM official opening ceremonies in Grenada, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Barbados, and I was so proud to be a Bahamian tonight to cover the annual Heads of Government meeting here in the Bahamas, finally here in the Bahamas, and it was an excellent event. I can tell you that so many people enjoyed the Junkanoo rush out. So many people were taking pictures. There was an African contingent. All they had was their phones out, going on every single move that the Junkanoo dancers did. They were so impressed with the Junkanoo. I can also tell you that the reception is well underway right outside, and we're going to go out there and see exactly who's out there and who will be mingling with our local leaders. Now, our coverage of the annual CARICOM Heads of Government meeting doesn't end here. I encourage you, our viewers, to join me tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the morning at the Bahama Resort, where we will provide you with more coverage of this week's CARICOM Heads of Government meeting at the Bahama Resort. That does it for me here in the convention center. I'm Altaviz Munnings. Back to you, Makushla and Julian.
But of course, most of the meetings will be private, but there are going to be lots of opportunities for interviews and real discussions with some of the leaders and some of the key players who are making this meeting happen. And we'll be bringing as much of it to you as we can.
Those are some intense days coming up. We can tell you that up for discussion tomorrow alone is the update on COVID-19 and other emerging health issues. We know last year we also dealt with monkeypox, touch and go with cholera, so things of that nature. We'll have a report from the Prime Ministerial Subcommittee on the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, again, the CSME, advancing the CARICOM agro-food systems agenda and prioritizing regional food and nutrition security. That's on the agenda for Thursday as well. And we can also tell you that there will be an engagement with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And as you've heard all night, they're hoping that they're expecting him to lead the support for Haiti, an issue that tops the agenda here.
I think there are a couple of issues that they're actually placing at his feet, but we will see tomorrow.
Just a reminder of our broadcast times. Like Altaviz told you, she'd be on at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's our pre-show with Altaviz, 8:30 rather, with Altaviz Munnings. So she'll be solo in the morning. Our post-show will be with Julian and myself at 8 p.m., the post-show. So we'll recap all that happened after those plenary discussions.
Well, we thank you for joining us. And again, tune in tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening with me and Makushla.
Thank you for joining us.
On behalf of the entire ZNS team, good night.
Good night.
You're watching the ZNS Network, the People's Station.